see you. It's good
It's good
to
to see you
catch
too. I
up.
know it's been a minute. So yeah, I
Happy
mean, you
belated birthday too.
thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. I'm still like getting into this new age, like, oh, okay, so this is what this age feels like, and you know, all that. But yeah, I mean, you've been a guest on the podcast before years ago, when I first started,
Mhm.
which is kind of a trip because I've had a chance to go back and like re-interview and sit down with some repeat guests, from the original days when I was sitting in my car recording in random places throughout Long Beach because that was the only place I could. So it's
Yeah.
kind of cool to like record now and kind of see the growth, the culmination, where we've been, where we are, and yeah, I just wanted to have a chance to like sit down and talk to you to check in. Thank you for taking the time to fill out my little questionnaire. That's me, trying to be official with
It's some
shit.
good questions, by the way. Yeah, really good questions on there.
Thank you. Thank
Pretty
you.
thorough. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. So yeah, so we are recording here and then we're also recording on audio, so I got you covered, and I just want to dive into this conversation as usual, take up as much or as little space as you'd like with your responses. I'm going to ask some questions. Some are going to sound really familiar because you just filled it out today, and then others are ones that I kind of throw into every episode. If
All
there's
right.
any question that you're like, I'm cool, I don't feel like answering that, obviously there's no pressure. And the goal here, of course, as always, is just to have enlightening, intentional conversations because for whatever reason, my listeners really like to talk to the people that I talk to and hear the things that we talk about. So hence
Mhm.
the podcast. But
Mhm.
so yeah, I'm just gonna give you the floor and let you take a moment to introduce yourself to the listeners by sharing your name, where you're from, and what you stand for.
Okay. Well, my name is Loren, and I am not a Long Beach native, but I consider myself to be one at heart. Been out here living in Long Beach for about 13 years now. So, originally from LA, Culver City. And what do I stand for? Well, um, so much. I just stand for just be real, be good hearted, be kind hearted. I just stand for none of the extras. Shoot it to me straight. I just stand for just being around people and encouraging people just to be their true, authentic selves. Life is short and it's complicated in the midst of it being short, so it makes it even shorter. And so, with that, I just really encourage people to always be their true, authentic selves, and that's just what I stand for. Even with my kids, it's just like shoot it to me straight, be real. Um, just I don't even know how to put it into the real words of how it feels to me is just I don't know, Keyshawn. I'm just noticing, I'm about to be 35 and I'm noticing that as I'm getting older, I'm just noticing that so many people are just becoming more fake as time goes by. So
Hell
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So I just stand for like, people just being real, just just being honest and just being upfront, just being compassionate and humble. That's what I stand for. That's what I implement my morals and my values. Being kind, being honest, showing gratitude, having appreciation. That's just my character and what I really truly stand for.
Yeah, I hear you. And it's interesting because like you said, as we get older, more mature, more self-aware, I think we just become more cognizant of how people
Mm,
are fake, phony, or otherwise not real. And I
right.
think a lot of that also has to do with as we become more of who we are and being our true self and whole self and showing up, flawed and indifferent and imperfect
Mm,
and whatever, that the expectation for other people to do the same thing kind of gets heightened. And
mm,
so we're like, I'm out here being my whole self with all my shit. But then everybody else is out here, or not everybody, but a lot of other people are out here just kind of letting their persona be their reality and letting their true self be something that either is hidden because they don't want people to know, or
Right.
because they don't know, is what I'm recognizing. As a lot of people don't know who they really are. They don't really know what they're about or what they stand for. They don't really have conviction or self-awareness enough to say, this is who I am. This is
Yeah.
what I value most. This is what's important to me. Because I think once you get to that place of self-awareness, then you're automatically going to start to peep out anybody who's not, and then you're going to start to naturally just eliminate those people, or
Mhm.
they eliminate themselves. And then I think in place of that, you start to attract the people who are mirroring that same authenticity, that same realness.
Yeah, that's mad facts. I think once everybody, for better lack of words, it just kind of cuts the bullshit. You really start to strip away those layers, and you start to see, like you said, there's people that don't even know who they are, and a lot of the times it's because they just they're just covered in too much bullshit. You got to cut all that crap out. You got to peel those layers back, and another thing too is just the past year is just it's been a realization to me that we owe it to ourselves. A lot of the times we think we don't owe ourselves anything, but we really truly do. If anything, we owe ourselves everything. And in the midst of that, that's being true to yourself and being true to you. And so with that, yeah, I have found that my circle of my circle of people are becoming shorter and shorter the older I get. When I was younger, I was like, man, I had everybody. I knew everybody and their mama. I was over here, I was over there. And now that I'm getting older, so my circle is getting smaller. And about a few years ago, I was like, is that a good thing or a bad thing? But as I'm getting older, I'm starting to find it's a good thing for me, and maybe a bad thing for others. So, you know,
That's
uh,
real.
yeah.
Yeah, that's real. I think that's exactly what happens. I think it's like when we're younger that we're still trying to figure out who we are. So
Hmm.
we have, different cliques, different groups. We got, 30, 40 people that are like, everybody's my best friend, everybody's my people, everybody's my this or my that. And then as you become more aware of who you are, then you start to recognize that maybe being in so many cliques or so many spaces meant that in this group you got to be this person, and over
Yeah.
here you got to be this other person, and for these people you got to be this person. And that
Hmm.
gets tiring, over time. You're like, I don't want to have to filter myself or alter myself or dim
Hmm.
my light or change to be in all these different sets of people.
Hmm.
I'd rather just be my whole self all the time. And if
Yeah.
that means that my circle shrinks from 20 to 10 and from 10 to 5, then I know I got 5 motherfuckers I can trust, that I truly care about, that truly care about me, that are gonna have my back, that are about the same things I'm about. I'm good with that.
Right
Just
on.
my top 5. That's it. That's all I need.
Top five. Huh? Let's keep it simple.
Exactly.
I feel that.
Exactly. So some of the questions I asked on my questionnaire, I was really strategic and intentional about them because I feel like it's a way for people who don't know, my guests as well as I do, to get to know them a little bit better.
Uh,
And it's also kind of a trip for me, like some of people's responses. So I want you to tell me a little bit about yourself in a couple sentences with one of the questions that I asked. And I know some things about you that other people don't necessarily know. And one of the things is that you're a musician and you're a singer and a songwriter. And I want you to tell me a little bit about how you became this type of artist. What brought you to this medium of like artistic expression as a musician and songwriter?
well, it started at the age of 9. I was 9 years old. Um, I'll give some context to that behind that. So I started music, especially picking up the guitar at a very early age, basically to escape my trauma as a child. So, I grew up, we all have a story, and, mine's not as bad as others, but, I lost my mother when I was 2, and then, lived with my grandmother for a while. And then my dad came and got my sister and I when I was about 5 or 6. And then he picked us up and moved away. And he married another woman that I didn't care for too much. And so, I dealt with a lot of abuse and a lot of neglect and all that stuff. And so my stepmother had a brother who actually he wrote the song. Do you remember the song that used to go, I saw the sign. It opened eyes. I saw the sign. Well, her brother wrote that song. He's the writer of that song. Yes, John Darnielle. He plays for the Mountain Goats, and he actually has a couple songs in movies. So it's interesting. When he was younger, I would go into his room when we would go visit her parents, and he would be away on tour, and he had all these guitars in his room, and he had broken guitars with like missing strings and stuff. And so I would go and sneak in there when he was away on tour and start plucking away at the guitar. So that's when I became interested, is being around it at that age, and then just being able to hold an instrument in my hands and then just hear the sound and then just pluck away and try to just figure it all out. It was really soothing and very therapeutic to me at 9 years old. And what does a 9-year-old know about, they're having a therapeutic moment, right? So that's how it all started. So I actually started teaching myself guitar on broken guitars first. I never learned how to play a full 6-string guitar till years later. So I essentially only taught myself how to play on about 4 strings. And I taught myself by ear. And that's how that picked up. And I've never put it down since. And then, I just started, somebody had to sing the songs that I was writing. So I taught myself how to sing. I was never one of those, oh, I want to be a singer. Back in the day, put me on Star Search, none of that. I didn't want to be no Disney kid, none of that. Mickey Mouse House Club, none of that. So, but I just taught myself how to sing. I just started singing and singing to my stuff. And then eventually people started to tell me like, hey, you don't sound half bad. Then I exercised my voice to the point, okay. And then people said, well, damn, you sound pretty damn good. And I said, okay, well, let me keep going then. And that's how that came about. And then just writing too. I've always been a writer at a very, very early age. Even in, second grade, teachers were thinking, did I really write what I was writing? Because it was so deep and so heavy. I was on some Edgar Allan Poe shit, they were just like,
you're like, what's happening to this 7-year-old? What's going on here?
So, you take all that writing and then playing the guitar, teaching myself, and then teaching myself to sing, and you put all that together. And I came up with my own craft and my own signature. And it's been one of my greatest gifts. It's definitely been a God-given blessing that I have. So
do you prefer singer to songwriter, like performer versus provider of music? Which one do you prefer, or do you like them both the same?
I'm a baby face. I like how Babyface moves. I like when people hear songs and and you're like, you hear Tony Braxton stuff, you hear Mariah Carey stuff, you hear everybody's stuff back in the 80s and early 90s and stuff. And it's like Babyface wrote all that. Babyface wrote the whole soundtrack to Waiting to Excel. Like, he dipped in on that thing. And it's just like so many artists. So I like to write music for other artists and singers, but at the same time, I'll have, mine pop in there, because they're originals that nobody else can do. For the most part, I just love writing stuff for people to just go ahead and take it and bring my craft out.
I like that. And the funny part about it is that very few people, unless you really study music, really know who wrote some of their most favorite songs by their most favorite artists were not necessarily written by the artist themselves, the person who performed it, the person who sang it.
Oh yeah. People think, like, even with Prince, the song Nothing Compares to You by Sinead O'Connor.
Mm-hmm.
It's another one. People think that that's the original. Like, Prince wrote that.
Yeah, because I feel like when you're a songwriter, you probably have so much music in you, so many lyrics, so many stories, so many things that you want to tell, and getting them out of you onto paper or getting them out of you into song is a lot. And then the next stage of it is performing. And some stuff you write, you're like, this is good. I don't want to sing this though. This isn't necessarily for me. Or if you have like an artist who wants to develop themselves and they don't really understand songwriting. It's one thing to just put lyrics on a page. It's another thing to put lyrics to music and make it make sense and make it like really hit. So I think that's a skill that a lot of performers don't necessarily have as songwriters too, So that's something that I feel like that's why Prince is a Prince. You know what I'm saying? Why he's a singer and a songwriter and a musician and a performer.
Quincy Jones, it's just so many legends, It's a craft, like you said. It's so much. There's so much structure that goes behind it too. You have to bring your music to life. It's like a filmmaker, when you think of some of the best filmmakers, when they bring their movies to life and stuff, everything they poured into it. They got to get the right actors, and you got to get the right music, and it's
Right.
really a package deal for sure.
Right. No, I feel you. So you mentioned a little bit about growing up and, like you said, everybody kind of has a story. And something that I know that stood out to me about you when we first met, which feels like 100 years ago, even though it wasn't long ago, but it feels like it was a long time ago, is that you are a former foster youth. So
Hmm.
you aged out of the foster system into the adult, person that you are today. Can you talk a little bit about what that experience was like aging out, like what came next and how you kind of found your footing?
Oh yeah, I mean it was a tough time. I'm gonna say way back then, back in the day. The system has changed for foster youth a lot. It has grown and excelled, which is beautiful. So that former foster youth have a better platform to transition into their adulthood. But when I had aged out, well, I went into foster care a little later when I was a teenager. When I just had enough with my dad, and him and I just we went toe to toe one night. I call it when the wolves rumbled that night. I actually stood up to him that night, and then I ran away from that, and I went into the foster care system. So I was in the foster care system for about maybe about about 4 or 5 years. Yeah, 4 or 5 years. And you bounce around a lot. But then when I had graduated high school, I was actually in a group home, and there's a difference. You have foster homes where you have foster families. You have like a foster parent that takes people in their actual home, and then you have like group homes that are more facility based type of buildings. It's kind of like a little baby jail. And
Mhm.
so um so I ended up emancipating from a group home, and it wasn't good. It was about 4 days after my birthday. It was in the summertime, and they gave me the boot. And so they just found me a spot somewhere in Corona, and gave me a $25 gift card to Stater Brothers to get some groceries, and then told me by the time I found a job, I would be able to pay the rent where I was, and I should be good to go. I wasn't left with any resources or anything. And so it was a very bad experience. I actually experienced being homeless after that for a little while. For a few months, I was actually living on the street. I had hitched back to Palm Springs because I grew up in Palm Springs for a while, and I was actually living on the street, and I was using my guitar to make money for me. So I was washing up in a Jack in the Box bathroom, and I said, if I'm gonna be homeless, I got to make it look good. And so so that's what I did. We played my music, and sometimes I get lucky enough to make enough to stay in a hotel or a motel that night, buy me some food. But it was tough. The foster care system for me was, I didn't have the platform or the foundation to really get a good footing into my adulthood. I had to figure it out. And so I went through, oh my God, so many loops and turns just to get to where I'm at now. But I honestly feel I wouldn't be where I'm at today if I didn't go through what I did. You know what I mean? Sometimes those challenges need to take place in order for you to grow and have a different perspective on life to get you where you're at now.
Right, right. Well, and I think about what you shared in your questionnaire about you getting into housing development
Mm.
for affordable housing as like the career that you're in now. And it's interesting when you think about the things that you've lived, the places that you've been, the places that you've slept,
Right.
literally can
Uh-huh.
kind of put you in alignment with doing things that are going to benefit other people so that maybe other people don't have to go through what you went through or have as difficult of a time as you did to be able to make those transitions. And I always think it's so interesting to me how creatives, I don't know about you, but I feel like most creatives that I know go through the most shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like, do we really have to have it so hard? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
can it just be easy? But sometimes I've talked to a lot of creatives, and some of us feel like we create our best stuff, writing, music, dance, whatever it is, when we're in the trenches. Do you have that
Man.
experience?
Hell yeah, I'll be on some 8 Mile shit, Eminem shit, like like that low for real. You
Yes.
know, back now that, I've kind of, I got my stuff together now, I'm living well, and I've done pretty damn good for myself. And I'm thinking like, some of my music now, I don't have time for my music now. I think I got too much going on. But back then, I kind of, sometimes you almost miss it. You almost miss those moments of when you slept in your car, or when you had to take the bus or ride the train, because there's no more, the moment, that beautiful, beautiful moment that you get to experience in just that creative world, whatever your niche is, whatever you've been blessed with, your gifts and everything. And when you bring that and craft that out, it's just, it's a liberating experience. And then so when you let life and things get in the way, it kind of takes from it. You know what I mean? It becomes more of a, I don't know, it becomes more of like a to-do thing on your list, opposed to just being who you are. You are the creative. The creative is you. You know what I mean? So I
That's
do.
real. That's real. I was talking to my son about it the other day. He's a creative filmmaker, writer, and we were having a conversation about, his plans. Like, he's got 2 years before he graduates from film school, what he wants to do next. And I was saying, he's like, I know I'm going to be in the trenches for a while because that's when I create my best stuff. And I
Mhm.
was telling him, like, it's okay to create when you're comfortable. And he was like, no,
Mhm.
I gotta be uncomfortable so I can keep creating. And
Um,
it's so real though, because I know that feeling,
mm,
writing my first book, or like putting out some of my best work as far as like the teaching or the coaching or the concepts of the things. It was when my back was against the wall. Even with this podcast, when I
mhm.
started it in 2018 to now, I know that I've put out way less than I was doing that first year, that second year, because we get comfortable, we get
Yeah.
comfy, we got, doors, windows, keys, and cars now. So it's like, I mean, I'll create something when I get to it,
Mm,
even though I think that's because the creative work that we're doing was therapeutic, because
mhm.
we're going through so much at the time, and we needed something to be able to channel our energy into, to be able to distract ourselves in a lot of ways from everything that was going on, a way to kind of tell our story. Whereas when we kind of level up, we get spouses and children and homes, and we're doing okay, we're not worried about how to keep the fucking lights on. We're like, okay, I gotta write a song.
Mhm.
What am I gonna write about?
Yeah, our time becomes just wanting to just chill on the couch, just lay, just watch a movie, just do something, and that's okay. We always want to give that to us, but if that's becoming more frequent, and like I told myself, and I'm not focusing on my craft, and I'm like, to me, that can be a little problematic. Yeah.
Agreed. Agreed. Because then we end up feeling that creative energy ends up getting transitioned into just like eating too much, drinking too much, sleeping too much,
Yeah.
not doing shit. You know what I mean? And it's kind of like, it's like that energy needs somewhere to go. So I want to talk a little bit about one thing that I ask my guests now is, like you said earlier, everybody has a story to tell.
Mhm.
And I really truly believe that it is by telling and hearing the stories of others that we really better understand ourselves, or also
Mhm.
give ourselves a chance to really explore ourselves a little bit more. So, one of the things that I ask my guests is, what is something about you that most people don't know?
Hmm. Well, it depends. It depends on the group. It depends on the group of people that I associate with. If it's my close friends, well, you know, okay. A lot of people actually, and I'm gonna be very vulnerable and transparent here, like super vulnerable and transparent, because this is what this is for.
Okay.
Uh, you know, um, I feel like I'm talking to Oprah right now, super soul.
I'm gonna lean in like this. Tell me.
Yeah, but no, actually, a lot of people around me don't know that actually this past year has been probably the worst I've ever been depressed, like ever before. Even like I just told you, like my whole um, thing with experiencing homelessness and all that, you know, it didn't affect me the way that I've been affected this past year. And so a lot of people don't know that I have been battling depression really bad, because I'm just not that. I don't come off like that. I come off like, Lowe's got it together. Lowe is sharp. Lowe is this, Lowe is always in good spirits. Lowe is, the one you turn to when you need a helping hand and everything. And so, but man, I got hit with depression so hard, like never before. It rocked, it laid my ass out. And it's because a lot of people don't know that I'm transitioning right now. So a lot of people don't know that, we just talked about the beginning of the discussion of this podcast about being, our true authentic selves and stripping back those layers, taking those layers off of fooling ourselves. Okay, let's take that off. Okay, I'm bullshitting myself here. I don't like hanging out with this crowd. Why am I acting like this? Why am I having this job? And start peeling that stuff off. But yeah, I have always battled, always feeling like a guy my whole entire life since I've been a little ass kid. And so now that I've been transitioning, I thought it was going to be all grits and gravy. I get that testosterone, I'm transitioning, and that shit knocked me on my ass, and this is things that aren't being talked about on YouTube. And I'm like, I probably should put this out there. Like, I don't know what other trans guys are saying, but you have to have some thick ass skin to be ready for this shit. You know what I mean? Because you go into discovering a new part of yourself that you have now just kind of accepted within yourself. And then now, your chosen family or your chosen tribe, you've done told. And then now everyone's adjusting, you're adjusting, dysphoria kicks in. Before I was the stud that was always, I take my guns out any day. I've always been big. I show my arm. Now I'm all covered. Now, it's summertime. You can't catch me. I'm covered. I'm wearing a damn sweater because I got to get ready for top surgery. And so now that really put me in a deep depression. And that's one thing a lot of people don't know that's been going on is that. And people, if I told people, they'd be like, what, Loren, like depressed like that? Nah, no way. I'm the one that you come to for advice. Or I'm like telling you, like, come on, man, dust yourself off. Shit happens. Like, pray about it, whatever. But no, it's been real. It's been real.
That's real because, I mean, for so many reasons, I think that obviously, well, one, last year we were all hit with the fucking pandemic, what I mean? And that shit came out of nowhere. And being in quarantine, putting us in spaces with our families or loved ones in a way that we'd never probably experienced them before. That shit hit hard. Yeah. And then on top of all of that, going through a life-changing transition in this state and age, in this quarantine, like all those things compounded on top of each other, on top of being isolated and separated from the chosen family or the safe spaces that you would normally socialize in or whatever, all those things combined, hell yeah. I would say I don't know anyone personally in my top 5, my inner circle, who wasn't hit hard by depression in the last 18 months. And it showed up a little bit differently for all of us. It manifested a little bit differently for all of us. We've all been feeling it though, and the crazy part about it, not crazy, but the strange part about depression is it has a way of making us feel like we're the only ones who are experiencing it, when in reality, all of us are feeling it. We're all just coping with it in a different way. Some of us are talking about it. Some of us are going quiet. Some of us are working out. Some of us are just eating all the time. Some of us are sleeping all the time. Some of us are doing a combination of all three, and some of us ain't doing shit, So I think what I appreciate about this connection is that there's so much love here and there's so much trust here that I'm like, I know something's up with my friend. I know that they're over there going through changes because I know I'm going through fucking changes, and I'm just going through changes as like, are we all gonna die? What's going on?
Right. Yeah.
Is this all about to be over? Is this it? You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? But then on top of that, going through my own, what in a lot of ways feels like a coming out experience because of my relationship with my father, not having a close relationship with my father growing up, not having a deep connection with him, truly just despising his existence for the majority of my childhood into early adulthood. And now getting to the point where we're co-hosting this weekly Bible talk fucking meditation.
Beautiful.
And I'm like,
beautiful. I love that. I love that.
Okay. And the big reason why I stay so committed to it is because that's part of my healing. Part of me saying, and I tease them all the time, it's like, because I'm a good Christian, I'm a good person, that's why we're doing this. This ain't about you, partner. It's about me, you know. But it's really serving as therapy for me because
Mhm.
it's me shifting and changing and not trying to hide who I am, not avoiding conversations about my sexual preference or my relationship and my queerness, like
Mhm.
not covering those things, taking
Mhm.
off some of those layers. So I feel like what's been serving me really well is facing the depression head on and
Mhm.
really letting myself feel the feeling, and instead of trying to hurry up and get out of it, just kind of be in it like, okay, well, what is this? What's
Uh-huh.
happening right now? You know, where is this coming from? And then on top of what you're experiencing, I know you shared in your questionnaire that you're almost at 9 months of being on
Yeah.
testosterone.
Mhm.
And I, I don't
Yeah.
even know, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
the fact that you're still showing up for your family, for your partner, for your
Uh-huh.
job, you're doing a lot.
Yeah, just got a promotion too last week before I took his.
You're like, and I also just got promoted. So there's
But
that.
it was interesting because the interesting thing is that even when when we know we're going through things, we know we're depressed, we know we're not showing up as the best versions of ourselves.
Mhm.
It's a trip to me that not a lot of people can see that, because even in the midst of the pandemic and having to work from home and then having two additional kids now that I raise and then a partner, so there's three kids in the house, you know, and then my transition, like you said, I was surprised when they told me they wanted to give me the director position, at this company, and I'm thinking like, wait a minute, I actually haven't been showing up as my best self, but they think I've been killing it. You know what I mean? And so that just goes to show me, oh, that's because I was giving 1,000%, but now I'm just giving 100%.
That's right.
And so because I'm the type of person that goes above and beyond, and so now I'm giving you 100%, but I'm not giving 1,000. And so I had to celebrate that for myself too, and acknowledge that about myself. Like, oh, when I take a back seat, a lot of the times it's 100% because I'd be doing the most. But the transition and the testosterone, I'm telling you, man, this testosterone, I finally got my endocrinologist to get me on a good dosage. Thank
Okay.
God.
So did you have to go through, can you talk a little bit about that? Like
Yeah.
what the experience has been like and what you've been feeling and
So the first thing is first, you have to be comfortable with needles. So if you are a queasy with needles, I mean, I got every Friday, I have a needle about this long that I gotta
like a gummy version if I chew it up, you know, it's not.
man, I'm still waiting. But it don't bother me, but it's like I'm still waiting. But they ain't got none of that. They got some cream and they got some foam, but they say that stuff gets everywhere. And if you come in contact with it, everybody will be on testosterone. So they don't suggest
Okay.
it. So,
Understood. Everybody ain't
yeah.
transitioning,
You
just
can't
me.
wash your clothes in the same laundry. It's a trip. It's too many
Oh
restrictions.
wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But in the beginning, the estrogen is being blocked out. And so now, all those female hormones are being pushed out, and testosterone's coming in and saying, yo, this is what it is. Yo, we're finally here. Yo, this is what we've been waiting for, this moment. And so, but it comes with it takes you on a huge mental roller coaster. I was up and down in dosages. So I experienced moments of like some roid rage a little bit. And then I had days where you have high peaks and low peaks. So then on my low peak, I was like a grandpa. I couldn't get out the bed for 3 days.
Mm.
So it really takes a lot, when you're pumping your body up with these hormones, and it just goes to show you like shit, the areas and where you're willing to travel to be who you are is like, it's a trip. It's a trip, you know, like
The
people
length
with
that you're
anything.
willing to
Yeah,
go. Yeah.
it's a trip.
Yeah. But that's
So
real. I mean, if you it's not like, I mean, women will sit in a hair salon for 7 hours to just get an install done, and that's just a wig, you know what I mean, or a
yeah.
week. That's just a temporary, change of
Mhm.
just their appearance. So you imagine being a trans person
Yeah.
known since childhood that
Mhm.
this is who you're designed to be, this is who
Yeah.
you're meant to be, the lengths that you go through to get to that sweet spot where you just feel whole. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's
Mhm.
probably not a cakewalk, you know what I mean? It's not a
It's,
walk in the park. how are you feeling as you're approaching this 9 months? How much more time do you have, and what's coming next?
Well, the thing is that, once you start it, you're on it for the rest of your life. So
Okay.
that's first and foremost. You can choose to, depending, it's a case by case thing. You don't have to. Being transgender, doesn't even mean that you need to be on hormones. You can just, identify as to how you want to identify and change your clothes, what you wear, and, you're trans. You say, hey, this is me, I'm trans. Some people are stealth. Stealth meaning they don't want nobody to know they're trans. That's how I am. I'm both. Okay. I am stealth mode with a certain group, okay. And then certain group, I'm out in the open. Okay. And so it's just certain people that they don't understand, and I'm like, they haven't known me my whole life. So I'm like, I ain't even trying to do all that, but, and it's crazy because it's honestly in the church, I'm like, I'm super scared to come out at the church because they don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting. So, for those who will listen and watch this later, I have known Loren for, I want to say it's 5 years, but it might only be 3, but it feels like 10, and that's a good thing. So I, so I have been doing a lot of research since last year, late last year, early this year, when you told me what your plans are, and you told me about this realization, and like this moment of like, this is my truth and I'm sharing it with you, friend. And I remember in that moment feeling super grateful that I got to be one of the chosen few that you are open with and out with and real with. And then from that moment, I started watching YouTube videos, listening to podcasts, I'm watching TikTok videos, and every once in a while I'll learn something and kind of ask you like, okay, is this legit? Is this okay? And what do I do with this? And so, and the reason I share that is because I know that a lot of people who have the privilege of being one of the chosen few that have a transgender person in their life who feels comfortable and safe enough to be able to come to them and talk to them about their experiences. Mm-hmm. There's so many questions that come up, and some of them we feel like, is that a goofy question? Is that offensive? Can I ask him that, or should I just keep it to myself? Yeah. So one of the things that, like you mentioned in your responses, is being stealth and open, and then also saying like that you don't have to have hormone replacement therapy to qualify as being transgender. That one day I text you and was like, what is this medical, legal, and social trans? What does that mean? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, again, I'll talk about it in terms of, transgender men, because I can't speak on behalf of transgender women, because I absolutely don't. I have no clue what that even entails. Only that I know that if we do the hormones, we're going through the same thing. We're changing gender. We swap it. Okay. So, but for trans men, there's so many ways in how you identify as, being trans, and, you have transmasculine. So I'm transmasculine, which means, and transmasculine for me is like, man of all mans, when I need the hormones, I need to get the beard coming in, and you can't see it here, but I got some facial hair coming in. You'll see it on Friday. And, I got to get the top surgery done. And then there's bottom surgery. Well, that's a different, we'll have a conversation on that later. I don't know if I'm gonna do all that, and I'll tell you my reasons why. But, there's, and then you have trans men who are like queer, which means they have always known themselves to be men, and they identify as he, him, his, but they've always been attracted to men. So, they're like a trans queer male, you know what I mean? I'm more kind of like the trans guy who would essentially be like, I always tell myself, wow, if I was actually born cisgender male, I probably would have been heterosexual, because how I identify is a trans masculine male who is attracted to women, or one woman, so I don't get, dinged on this.
For the record.
for the record. But, and feminine women, your average feminine woman, all woman, hair, makeup, everything. So it's kind of like, yeah, I'm trans, I'm part of the LGBTQ community, but, I'm still only attracted to women. And I saw a very offensive So see, this is why I don't post shit on social media. I had posted something, and someone had commented and told me, what they say. They said, "You're just a lesbian hiding behind a beard." I said,
Mm,
it's just like, see, this is the thing. So this is why I say you got to have some thick skin, because as soon as you start coming out, they start coming for you. And I mean, it's just different when with the LGBTQ community, the T's, we the T's, there's a different treatment there. You know what I mean? Because even within the LGBTQ community, people within the LGBTQ community are having a hard time understanding the trans community. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, we all a part of it, but I got some questions. Like, I don't understand. I
mhm,
thought just either like we like the same sex, you know what I mean? So it's like, but yeah, you have that in medical. So I'm doing the hormones. And then you have, if you don't want to do hormones, you can just, again, it's by your clothing. Maybe you cut your hair.
mhm.
And then two, I have seen like, trans individuals who identify as male, but they got makeup on and fingernails done, but they're like, I go by he, him, his. And then you
Mhm,
have non-binary, you know
mhm.
what I mean? And then you have trans who were actually trans individuals who were born intersex, which means they were actually born both male and female. And now we are just living in a day and age to where they can actually choose, hey, I can actually come out and actually be who I've always thought I know myself to be.
Yeah,
And so it's just it's a trip, Keyshawn. Like,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I can
yeah.
imagine. I mean, it's interesting because I can say as a, a member of the alphabet mafia of the LGBTQIA plus community, I can honestly say that I mean, until I would say maybe the last 5 to 6 years, my knowledge and awareness of the transgender community and the unique experiences of transgender men and women was very limited, and
Mm-hmm.
it was just because it wasn't talked about. It wasn't happening in conversation as frequently. And anytime that someone that I knew as a lesbian woman transitioned, they just disappeared. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I mean? For a while, they disappeared from the community. They weren't coming around
Mm-hmm.
social spaces anymore.
Yeah.
They, disappeared from social media, and then they just reemerged as their whole self. And it was
Right.
like, oh man, I wish I had known. I would have, sent you some flowers and sent you
Yeah.
some sea moss or something. I didn't know you were going through all that stuff. And
Yeah.
I understand though, because there's so much resistance or
Mm-hmm.
rejection, I'm sure, that probably comes from being in that space, that you kind of just put your walls up, and
Mm-hmm.
you're like, I'm only going to be around who I feel safe being around. But I know a friend, Kai, who when I met, it was prior to them stepping into their whole self. And I felt, again, grateful that I
Mm-hmm.
got a text and I got a Facebook message like, hey, this is what's going on in my life. This is where I am. And I was like, cool. Yay. So, I mean, maybe I just get the notice. I'm cool with that. I get to be
Yeah.
the one who gets to know about, who gets to be
Yeah.
supportive, because now it's been years, and they live in the Bay Area now. And to see the transition, not from the neck down, as I
Mm-hmm.
call it, but from the neck up, to see the light, in
Mm-hmm.
their eye, see the smile change and just feel a little bit brighter, to just see so much of their whole self coming out of them, just is such a beautiful thing to witness. So I I just my intention and my encouragement for people who are listening or watching this is, be willing to learn, be willing to listen, and
Mm-hmm.
just be willing to know that there's shit you don't know. And if you don't know, ask the question with the intention of understanding, not judging,
And of
not
understand.
anybody's mind.
Absolutely.
Just ask with the intention of understanding, because I
Yeah.
know that for me, I'm grateful that you are going through this now, that
Mm-hmm.
you're not waiting another year or another 2 years or another, like, it's like, no, I'm doing this now. This is a life-changing experience and I'm stepping into this now, because I'm like, yeah, good, do it so we can start having fun again.
Right. A tough summer for me, but I tell it's my time is my time is now. But I feel like like you said, your friend that just left, and because if you notice, I'm not on social media much anymore. I've kind of I was always posting everything, posting all the time.
Yeah.
Traveling here, doing this, always posting things. But now I'm just very behind the scenes because I just want to also just make sure I take care of myself. I will lose sight of taking care of myself, and I don't want it to be, long-term, damage, emotional damage that I'm doing to myself. So I'm like, you know what, if I need to fall back, I got my crew. I could text you, I could text people, but you might not see me on social media for a while. Got to protect myself.
Yeah. Yeah. So I want to switch gears just a little bit. And this is the portion of the podcast where I throw some of my other goofy questions at you. So one of the questions that I like to ask in these, and I love reading people's answers because everybody's answers are so unique, but they're also very similar. For whatever reason, a lot of people want to live in one particular place if they could. So one of the questions I have for you is, if you could reside anywhere in the world, where would you live and why?
Oh yeah, Thailand, man. Oh man, I love me some Thailand. Do a lot of people say that?
A lot of people say just Asia, but
Yeah,
Thailand, Bali, Vietnam. I mean, it's like, I haven't been to Asia yet, so maybe I'll need to go and then that's where I'll end up.
haven't been to Asia yet.
Not yet.
Oh, okay. Thailand for me, when I went a few years back, the one thing that I just noticed, and then too, I made some stops in Asia. We went to Taiwan and stuff, and it's just, everyone there is just so full of love and free. And people are like, oh, I don't know how you can travel to a third world country like that, and da 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 da. I'm thinking like, wait a minute, hold on, because they don't out there, they just don't live the way that we do out here in the US, man. We got it all twisted. You know what I mean? Everyone there just wants to feel loved and to be loved and feel accepted and just to not live in fear. And they don't project that out there. And so for me, Thailand, I'm just like, the food is amazing. I didn't like it when I first went, but now I love it. And aside from that, it's just everything. Nature is beautiful. It's beautiful. It's very similar to Bali to me, but I'm like, it's just a place. It's the people. It's the people. You are who you hang around. And so, and it's just stepping out the door. I'm just like, man, if I could live in Thailand and just, wear my sandals and it's still raining and it feels good and the skin is glistening and Black people just be shining like gold, and we're praised out there. Black people praised everywhere we go outside of the US. Do you know that? We can go anywhere outside the country. We're like, they be like, oh, like this to us.
The chosen people.
We
Yes.
the people. But yeah, it's just Thailand. It's just that culture. It's just that vibe. It's the energy that the people have out there. Always with love, always with peace. The temples, you know what I mean? Like the monks. I'm just like, everything is it's just right, Keyshawn. I can't even. When you get the chance, and I know with the pandemic and everything, everybody's like, yeah, I may have to go to, I don't know, I'm gonna have to go to a different continent, but you got to go visit Thailand and just Asia as a whole. It's a beautiful place. The people are beautiful.
I've heard good things, and I have friends who are in Sri Lanka and friends who are in parts of India. So I know when I go, I'm gonna have to go for like 6 weeks to just bounce around and visit a couple different countries. But it's on my list. It's on my list for sure. So Thailand, okay, yeah, you're like the third person who said Thailand, and then some other people said other places. So I'm like, okay, so clearly I need to go. Yeah. So my next question that I have for you is, if you woke up tomorrow morning with $100 million in your bank account, what is the first thing you would do?
First thing I'd be like, we got a problem. This is a mistake. No, I would, first thing I would actually do, the very first thing I would actually do, and this is real. I would honestly, for me, I'd have to take a minute and sit with myself and pray about it and just really sit and say, okay, what comes to me? What am I supposed to do with this money?
Yep.
This is a lot of money. I don't even want to pay off debt yet. I want to just sit with myself for a minute and go, okay. And I know for the most part, me and just why I'm here living in this flesh and this shell right here on this earth, I know I've always been a very giving person, especially when it comes to money. And so honestly, I would feel I've been blessed with that money to give a lot of it away to those that need it, or put it into a nonprofit, create a charitable organization, give it to, you hear this all the time with charitable organizations. People are like, oh yeah, I donate here and I donate there. But really, if I got $100 million and I prayed about it and God said, you got to get rid of all of it. And it just came to me and said that I probably would get rid of all of it, like on some real shit, because I believe that when we get blessed with riches like that, and we really do what's in our best intentions to do right by that money, we reap the real wealth and the riches in the end and the blessings in the end. That's what we really want. And so that's just something I believe in. And of course, I want to be comfortable and be like, okay, I want to make sure you're good. You good? The kid's good? Y'all good? Okay, probably not going to get this Tesla, but maybe I'll get this Chevy, this Chevy truck, But really, though.
No, that's real. That's real. I mean, I wholeheartedly agree. And that's another question that I ask every guest. And I would say probably 80% of responses are, one, make sure the shit is accurate. Two, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Sit on it for a couple of days, make sure the bank didn't make a mistake. And then after they take care of themselves within reason, it's always a pay it forward, take care of others, provide for others. And it's interesting because, I think about the billionaires of our world, the Beyoncés, the Jay-Z's, the Bezos, the these, the those. And I don't know their whole life. I don't know how much they're giving back. We do see a lot of their wealth and their opulence and their material, their materialism and the materialism of their lives.
Yes.
And I also know that I believe, too much, what is it like, to whom much is given, much will be required. So I feel like to be able to be given or gifted that substantial amount of material wealth all at one time, I do feel like there would be a duty and a responsibility on the shoulders of someone like you, someone like me, to say, okay, I need to make sure that I'm reaching back. I need to make sure that I'm giving back, because I want to make sure that I'm always going to continue to be taken care of as I go forward. You know? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. That's real. That's real. This is my favorite part of the podcast, which is where I do these quick complete the sentence. So we're going to do complete the sentence before I let you go. So the first one is, I am happiest when
I'm drunk. No, I'm just kidding. No. I am happiest when I'm playing music, when I'm playing my guitar.
How about, I know I'm fed up when
you just keep having a shitty day back to back and it just don't stop. That's honestly, it's just like a repetitive days of shitty days. That's when I'm fed up. I'm just losing my shit.
How about, I know I've made an impact when
I've just given whatever I can to people, provided whatever I have to give to people. Anything. It could be money, it could be my home, it could be anything in that nature.
Yeah. Spirituality is
trusting in it.
So before we leave, I'm doing this fun activity where we're going to get into a time machine. So you're going to close your eyes for a moment, take a deep breath in, and you're going to step into a time machine. And we're going to travel all the way back to when you were 16. Step out of the time machine and you see your 16-year-old self. What is the first thing that you say?
I hope I'm going to be okay.
Yeah. So we're going to step back into the time machine and take a deep breath in. And as we exhale, we're going to go all the way forward. Don't know how far forward, but all the way to the end. What do you want to be remembered for?
My time.
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to come all the way back. Your time. That's good. That's good. Yeah. So we're going to step back in. We're going to come all the way back to the present moment here and now. And you can open your eyes when you're ready. And before I let you go, I'm going to pull one card from this trusty Oracle deck that I've been using with this podcast since I started it. And I'm going to let you pick a number between 1 and 52, and I will read your little message. What's your number?
33.
Ooh, 33. Okay.
Mm.
Let's see. This is a good one. I mean, they're all good. I feel like I say that about all of them, but this is a good one. They're all good. So this one, the message is open your presence. Open your presence. And the message says, have you ever seen a time-lapse film of a flower blooming, its petals opening wide? That's your new role model. Visualize yourself opening your arms wide, embracing all the prosperity and abundance that's flowing your way. Receive, 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 then pass it on.
Mm. That was it. That was actually, that was meant for me to hear. That hit it right on the button. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Well, my brother, I appreciate you so sincerely for carving out this time in your ultra busy schedule, for coming on, for sharing, for opening up, for being so vulnerable. I really feel like the conversations that you and I have had since we've met have always been so powerful and humorous and enlightening and inspiring and vulnerable all at the same time. And that's why I wanted to have you back on to share a little bit more of your story. I think that you are doing a courageous, fantastic job as a person, as a father, as a future husband, and most important to me, as a friend. And I just want you to know I love you, I support you, I got you, and I can't wait to hang out with you soon.
I appreciate you, Sean. Much love to you, sis. I'll see you on Friday.
All right. Peace.
Take it easy.